The title of this passage is Why Am I So Tired? Imagine a girl named Katie. It is nighttime and she plops into bed exhausted. Her first day in the new neighborhood has been stressful for her. There was the work of unpacking. There were the curious stares from the neighbors. Would she make friends? Would this new place ever feel like home? Now she just needed to get some sleep. But tomorrow would be worse. It is the first day of school. She turns out the light, punches the pillow into a comfortable shape, and stares at the wall. And stares and stares. Oh no, not again, she thinks to herself. She turns over on her back and looks at her clock. The lighted dial of her clock shows midnight. The next time she looks, it is 1 a.m., then 2 a.m. Perfect. I'll certainly make an impression on the kids in the lunchroom tomorrow, especially if I fall asleep face down in my soup. I'll bet they haven't even seen that before. Katie has a sleep disorder called insomnia. According to the United States National Institutes of Health, about 50 to 70 million Americans have sleep disorders that interrupt their sleep. Sleep disorders affect people in every age group. Here's a look at some of the most common sleep disorders. Insomnia, eyes wide open. People with insomnia have trouble falling asleep and staying asleep. They are often grouchy the next morning and can't concentrate. Poor sleep habits such as irregular bedtimes and waking times, staying late at a party, watching TV, being on the internet endlessly, and using a computer right before bed can cause insomnia. Stress is often the main cause of insomnia. You may have had mild insomnia the night before a big test. Like Katie, you probably have had some sleepless nights when something stressful was going on in your life, such as moving or trouble at home. This kind of insomnia usually goes away when the event that causes the stress is over. Changing your habits or talking with someone about your problems may help to cure insomnia. In some cases, a doctor can recommend medication to help you get to sleep. Restless leg syndrome. If you have restless leg syndrome, RLS, your legs feel like they are tingling or aching when you lie down in bed. The only way to stop the unpleasant feeling is to get up and move around. That keeps you from falling asleep or wakes you up if you were already asleep. RLS may be inherited or it may occur because of nerve damage in the legs. Different kinds of therapies can help to control RLS. Certain medicines may also help relieve RLS. Sleep apnea. Sleep apnea is a breathing disorder in which you actually stop breathing at times during your sleep. It usually happens when your windpipe is blocked and air cannot get through. Your brain wakes you just enough to signal you to breathe. These pauses may happen from 20 times a night to several hundred times a night. You're sleepy during the day because you didn't get enough sleep, but you don't remember waking up. One common cause of sleep apnea in adults is obesity. Losing weight often helps a lot. Other people with sleep apnea can avoid the problem by sleeping on their sides. Children with sleep apnea can often be helped by having their tonsils or adenoids removed. Sleepwalking and night terrors. Most kids outgrow these two disorders by the age of 12. If you or someone in your family sleepwalks, moves things that are easy to trip over. Make sure windows and doors to the outside are locked. It is also best to put gates up by staircases. You don't need to wake up a person who is sleepwalking. Just lead him or her back to bed. However, if you need to wake up a sleepwalker, it is okay to do so. Someone who has night terrors wakes up screaming. Then, usually about 10 to 20 minutes later, he or she goes back to sleep. Sometimes a few minutes of quiet talk may help to calm the person back to sleep. Someone who experiences night terrors often doesn't remember the incident in the morning. Sleep rhythms. This isn't a disorder, but it is important. People in different age groups have different sleep rhythms. Kids in elementary school need 9 to 12 hours of sleep each night. This means kids usually go to bed sometime between 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. For many preteens and teens, they may not be ready to go to bed until around 11 p.m. Researchers have found that teenagers' brains work best on a different schedule. One school district in Minnesota changed the starting time of the high school from 7:20 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. The teachers found that the students were then ready to learn in their first period class. Many students' grades went up. Sleep gives the brain time to repair nerve connections and to store information. When you're not getting enough sleep, you can lose your good judgment. Poor sleep also makes it harder to learn new things. Don't let a sleep disorder rob you of your Z time. How to get enough Z's. Here are some tips for getting to sleep and staying asleep. Avoid caffeine within 4 to 6 hours of bedtime. That means staying away from sodas and coffee. Exercise daily, but avoid strenuous exercise within 6 hours of bedtime. Keep your bed for sleeping. Don't do homework on it. If you can't fall asleep, leave your bedroom and go somewhere else to read. Go back to bed when you are feeling relaxed and sleepy. Get up at about the same time on weekdays and on weekends. If you nap, do it before 3 o'clock in the afternoon and don't sleep for more than an hour. Get into a bright light quickly in the morning, but avoid it in the evening. Wind down before going to bed. Avoid heavy reading, studying, and computer games within an hour of going to bed. Okay, these are the comprehension questions. Number 1, it says, what sleep disorder does Katie have? Does she have A, insomnia, or B, restless leg syndrome? If you need help, you can go back to paragraph 2 and reread. Number 2, insomnia is an effect that can have more than one cause. What is one cause of insomnia? Is it relaxation or stress? Go back to paragraph 6 and reread if you need help with question number 2. Number 3, read these sentences from the text. For many preteens and teens, they may not be ready to go to bed until around 11 p.m. Researchers have found that teenagers' brains work on different schedules. One school district in Minnesota changed the starting time of the high school from 7:20 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. The teachers found that the students were then ready to learn in their first period class. Many students' grades went up. Based on this information, why might students' grades have gone up? Would it be C, the students were getting less sleep, or D, the students were getting more sleep? Number 4, read this sentence from the text. Poor sleep habits such as irregular bedtimes and waking times, staying late at a party, watching TV, being on the internet endlessly, and using a computer right before bed can cause insomnia. Based on this evidence, what might be a solution to insomnia? Is it C, watching a lot of TV, or D, avoiding using a computer right before bed? Number 5, what is the main idea of this text? So the big picture, what is it all about? Is it about C, there are different kinds of sleep disorders and different ways to handle them? Or D, sleep gives the brain time to repair nerve connections and store information? So what is the entire article about? Number 6, read these sentences about Katie from the text. She turns out the light, punches the pillow into a comfortable shape, and stares at the wall. And stares and stares. Why might the author have repeated the phrase, and stares? Is it C, to bring attention to how long Katie was staring, or D, to hint that Katie should have gotten out of bed to read? Number 7, read this sentence from the text. You don't need to wake up a person who is sleepwalking, just lead him or her back to bed. How could this sentence best be broken into 2? Is it C, you don't need to wake up a person who is sleepwalking, instead just lead him or her back to bed? Or D, you don't need to wake up a person who is sleepwalking, for example, just lead him or her back to bed? So you're making one of the choices, either this set of sentences or this set of sentences, of how you could break this sentence into 2. Okay, 8, 9, and 10 are all extended responses. Number 8 says, describe what Katie does after turning out the light and punching her pillow. Include at least 3 details from the text in your answer. So for number 8, you can go back to paragraph 2 and just make a list of 3 things that she does after she turns out the light and punches her pillow. Number 9, at the end of the text, the author provides a list of tips for getting to sleep and staying asleep. What is one of the author's tips? So you can go back to the list where it's titled How to Get Enough Z's and pick one of those items out of the list and write it for number 9. Number 10, which of the author's tips might have helped Katie the most? Support your answer with evidence from the text. So here I've given you a sentence starter, and it says a tip that would help Katie is, you're going to fill in the tip, and then you're going to continue the sentence with because, and then you're going to explain why that tip would help her.